Hello everyone and welcome to the Hungarian. This is another round 10 in fact, of the 2022 Formula Sprint 1 Championship by GPVWC. We're going to have two races today, as always, but first of all it's qualifying, and that's what you're witnessing right now out on the circuit. I'm your commentator for today, Caitlin Penny, and my broadcast director and cameraman is Szymon Frelik, and I don't have Ross McIntyre alongside me today because he is, unfortunately, I say that for us anyway, unfortunately in the United States of America right now, and he will get back tomorrow, so he will probably be in the next Super League Championship race, or at least as a commentator he will. And yeah, Russ, I hope you're having a good time out there in the States. Here we are in qualifying then. We have a 15-minute session as always. We've only just started it, so no one's actually on their flying laps just yet, but they are about to start those laps. Here we are on board with Mogyorod racing for Nova Sim Racing, and he's about to put the power down and begin his lap. Quick update on the drivers' standings coming into today. We have some drivers who haven't raced in previous rounds this year. Out there somewhere is Phil Haugsvik, and he today will be racing for Build Sim. Now, Owen has raced in Formula Sprint 1 before, although not this season. Last year he did a few races for Lightning Racing Academy, Friesland and Rowan GP. And he also did a Super Lights race earlier this season in which he scored a few points. Also out there we have, who else do we have? We have the brand new team, of course, who made their debut last time out, with that being the Virtual Drivers by TX3 team. Of course, I wasn't here last time out due to having COVID, so that is a brand new team to me, with a very interesting half and half looking livery. And they today will have Fabian Ballet, and then their team boss, Roberto Pignataro, who is jumping into his own car. And Pignataro has yet to make a start in FS1, sorry. Although he has been racing in the last couple of rounds of Super Light. Right, you've just seen a lap of the Hungarian following Mogyorod, and it was a 1:20.920, which puts him at the top of the times for now. 0.7 of a second, 0.6 of a second now faster than the rest of the pack, with Krop now going second ahead of Amari Watson. Plenty of time left in the session though. Jake Denahan is faster than Mogyorod there in the second sector. He goes second across the line, just under 1/10 of a second off. And these are some pretty quick laps actually, about as fast as we've seen on the practice server. So far, the best time that has been seen is a 1:20.7, as set by Tom Stevens. So look out for that, and look out for him. But that time right now, the top time about 0.2 of a second off as it stands, and Tom Stevens yet to set a flying lap himself in this session. Alexander Ragosa about to start his first flying lap. Here is Justin van der Smissen on his first. Still a few drivers yet to set flying laps, and all but one of those are out on track right now. Philip Koenig escaped back to the pits, and I'm unsure whether he did that on track or whether he did that in the pits. Of course, that that results directly on whether he can come out again in the session or not. But for now, 21 drivers have set lap times. Probably only 20 of those representative though, because Mike Quint is currently registered as being 14 seconds off, so he probably backed off on his lap and set up for another one. Relatively good lap for Van der Smissen, I think. This might be a top 20 at this rate. He's going to cross the line soon. 22nd, okay, so he's not actually as fast as he looked that little way off. Noah Tuamela, I recognise that name. That's a driver who I haven't seen in a while. I'm going to look up Tuamela's results quickly, just so that I know what kind of experience they are likely to have. As Alexander Ragosa is about to start his first flying lap. Alexander usually qualifies about 8th to 10th on the grid, and with this lap will put himself P12, so a little way off what I just suggested, but that is absolutely okay. Still plenty of time to go in the session. There's the half and half livery I was telling you about there, Virtual Drivers by TX3. Personally, I'm not a big fan of half and half liveries, although that one looks okay with the striking fluorescent green. Tuomela did actually do the last round at Austria, although failed to score a point, unfortunately. Those were his first races in Formula Sprint 1, and he also did the British round of Superlights just a couple of weeks ago. Tom Stevens now out of the final corner. He was fastest on the practice server. What can he do in this qualifying session? Across the line, and it's P1. So Tom Stevens regains his top spot, 0.2 of a second faster than anyone else at this point in time. Very good lap from Tom Stevens. It's even quicker than the lap he set in practice by just under 0.1 of a second. And we normally see the fastest laps coming in the last 3 or 4, in fact probably more like 2 minutes of the session. Sometimes you see drivers scrapping it out on the very last lap of qualifying, because that's when the track is at its most rubbered in. No slipstream for these cars and no turbulent air, because of course it is single person qualifying. That means that while everyone is out on track right now, they can't see each other, they can't interact with each other, they might as well not be there to each other. Oh, and Mogyorod really improving on this lap actually, look at that. His first sector, well, it's still a purple, meaning it's faster than Tom Stevens' time, was actually down on his own personal best, so it's not a true purple, but his second sector was, and he does go pole provisionally. So Owen Mogyorod goes to provisional pole by 0.5 of a second. Here's Moritz Kropp now for Nocturne, Tom Stevens' teammate. Actually, Heiler going pretty quickly right now, just got up to P6. And the fastest third sector of all was just set by Roberto Pignataro. Shame his first sector was so bad. Moritz Kropp now, P4, so actually quite a spread out field at the front at the time being, with only the top 3 within 0.5 of a second there. Jake Dennehan now starting, does improve actually. So we do have the top 3 within 0.1 of a second, but then you have 0.5 a second almost back to Moritz Kropp. Big gap there. And none of those 3 cars are teammates as it stands either. So a bunch of different teams have got it right today, but only with one very specific driver. Fabian Ballet up to 9th. That's a big spin for Menno Klont there. That's a very ruined lap. Oh, and he's going to clout the wall in that as well. He's going to make it back to the pits though. Here is Maciej Heiler, who I've been very impressed with so far in this session. I believe 7th place would be his best qualifying result yet if he was to finish there, although I don't have an up-to-date qualifying result sheet, unfortunately. Out of the final turn for this particular lap, he was down in the second sector, down in the third as well. So no improvements for Maciej. And here's Vincent Gutt. 28 drivers on the server right now. That's the most we've had in a very long time here. Always good to see. Of course, earlier in the season we did have Team Brit pulling out of the championship, but they have now been replaced by virtual drivers, by TX3. Team Brit, who were not able to score any points, unfortunately, in any of the rounds that they participated in. But virtual drivers scored points on their debut, with Ballet winning both of them last time out. Let's have a quick recap of the last race, actually, since I wasn't able to see the full thing, so this would be good for myself to recap. So Frank Hamming won race 1 from Tom Stevens and Alexander Ragosa. And then Ragosa himself was able to come back and win race 2, his second victory of the season, and he was followed through by Tom Stevens and Jake Dennehan by the looks of things. So Stevens now leads the championship by 1 point over Owen Mogyorod, very close stuff there. Then Jake Dennehan is third, followed by Frank Hamming, Moritz Kropp, Amari Watson, Alexander Ragosa, Mike Quint, Darius Andre, and Damian Kardash, who for some reason was disqualified from the second race at Austria. That's interesting. I'll look up why that was. But anyway, there is Tom Stevens, not able to improve on that lap there. Setting up for another one, I presume. Even if he's not necessarily going for another lap straight away, he still has time. So if you get into the pits now, you'll have just enough time for an outlap before getting back out again. I mean, if you're in the pits now and you escape, you can probably have 2 more flying laps. Right, let's look up... let me get up the disciplinary proceedings, see if anyone has an outstanding penalty from the last round. Mogyorod quickly, you're on board with him. And quickly being the key word. Look at his first 2 sectors there. Only just up on his best, but they are. And that's what matters there. Through the penultimate corner. The final 2 corners are both hairpins here. They destroy the front tyres. Out of the final corner he goes. And an improvement. Yes, improves to a 120.496. Almost 0.2 of a second faster than anyone else. I don't think Menno Klont's been back into the pit since that spin, actually. I don't think he's had time to. Goes P7, though. Knocks down Maciej Hyla. Murray Watson improving. Up in the first sector. Also, Moritz Kropp is on a big one as well. And, sorry, Murray was improving, but yes, so you're right there, Szymon. He doesn't have a front wing. And Moritz does now get within half a second of the top 3. Only 5 within the first second. Damian Kardash also putting in a quick time. Watson, of course, won't be. Still registered as going quicker on the timesheet, but it hasn't come through with his second sector time. And he's now in the pits, unsurprisingly. So he made it back. And Kardash also coming into the pits. So the drivers who are coming in now, which looks to be the majority of the top half of the field, as Kasper Michalak's also missing his front wing there. But as I was going to say, the majority of the cars that are coming in will be setting up for one final flying run now. They'll be going out with ultra low fuel and then dashing to the finish, all or nothing style. They've already got their bankers in, so they won't drop too far down if they fail. But they've got to push now. It's all that you can do. Darius Andre was disqualified from the last race and given a 25-second grid drop. Now he's actually not here today, is he? So Darius Andre, who would have been taking the TCS off car out, who's replaced him for TCS off there? Silver Joffert, currently running in P23. We're watching Maciej Hyla. I tell you what, Roberto Pignataro just set another purple sector in Sector 3. His third sector time is superb. His first sector time and his second sector are miles off though. He's down in P17, despite being the fastest of all in the latter part of the lap. That's a bizarre one. These drivers that you're watching are on their final flying laps now. Actually, if Maciej gets across the line, yes, he will actually. He'll have just enough time for one more flying lap. Just being sent a message by Carter McCorman saying Darius has a round ban for Hungary and that's why he's not here. That makes sense. Silver Joffert filling that seat. Maciej Hyla goes P6, gets within a second of the top time. But Koenig won't, although still looks to be improving on his own time. Craig Patterson now impressive in the first sector. Philip Koenig even quicker in the first sector than Patterson actually, so maybe this is a better lap than I first thought. As Omari Watson's first sector time beats both of them. And the checkered flag will be out and waiting now. Philip Koenig goes 10th, so Koenig does knock Patterson out of that position for the time being at least. And Patterson's second sector is not great. Stevens and Denehan are both improving. Stevens' first sector time, the fastest of anyone on this lap so far. Not the fastest of anyone in this session. But out of the drivers currently on laps. And there he is in the second sector. It's another good time there. Patson's lap kept him 11th. An improvement for Watson. He goes 5th. Crop's in the pits, so he will not improve. Still out there, Mogyorod, Stevens, Denehan, Hamming. Here comes Tom Stevens. What can he do? What is the lap? It's second. And it's less than a 10th off. Here comes Jake Denehan now. And he stays third. Just misses out. Big shunt for Mogyorod, but that's okay. He still is looking favourite for pole here. And yes, I don't think anyone can beat him now, because Kardash has come across the line in 5th. Klunt appears to be backing off as well. No, he's still on a lap, although that didn't appear to be particularly quick. Adrian Faber, 29 cars in the server now. Fantastically sized grid. And this is his first lap of the session, and it will be his only lap of the session. I think the driver who joined a bit later was Federico Russo, potentially. I don't think I saw him in earlier, but Russo is indeed here. And Faber, of course, joined late too. Out of the final turn, this could put him literally anywhere on the grid. I don't think it's going to put him particularly high up looking at his first sector time. Ooh, stays 29th. I wonder if he didn't get any practice in. Okay, so that is qualifying over. And Owen Mogyorod has taken pole position by less than a 10th of a second over Tom Stevens. Jake Denehan is third. Moritz Krop is 4th. Then it's Damien Kardash, Amari Watson, Jason Muscat, Frank Hamming, Maciej Heiler, and Menno Klunt. And it's going to be difficult to pick a winner amongst those top few, but they are in a class of their own ahead of the rest of the field. Philip Koenig 11th, then Craig Patson, Fabian Bale, Mateusz Szybiński, Arda Erkan, Alexander Ragosa, Silva Joffert, Roberto Pignataro, Stavros Mosaidus, and Vincent Gutt. Owen Phil Haugsvik, P20, then Mike Quint, P21, then Mike Quint, Federico Rosso, Rafael Lukaszewski, Noah Tuamela, Gerrit de Vries, Kasper Michalak, Justin van der Smissen, and Adrian Faber, and that is 29 cars. It's just that Alexander Ragosa has briefly left the server, and the order got a little confused by that. But anyway, since there is only one of me, I'm going to take a break during the warm-up session. Yes, I will. Actually, no, I don't need to do that. I'll take a break between the two races. It's absolutely fine. We can stay online for the warm-up session, because there's always something to talk about when it comes to Formula Sprint 1. If you have any questions or comments or anything like that, please do leave them in the YouTube chat. Now would be a very good time to do so, because I am much more likely to read them now than when the races are in full swing. But of course, you don't have to if you don't want to. Who have we got in the YouTube chat right now? Seva Panasenko cheering on Menno and Noah. Woo Menno, woo Noah. Good stuff. Soto saying, hello commentators. Do you mean commentator? Ever I go I see Remy. Where's Remy? Which one's... Is that... I don't think you mean Remco de Joux, because he's not here today. Is there a driver out there called Remy? Don't know what that comment's referring to, but anyway. Josh Downard saying hello. Hello to you too, Josh. Good to see you. And Yamadox, Marco Lucchini, Ruven Machete. Very, very good. Gerrit de Vries also there in the YouTube chat. And Carter McCorman saying good luck everyone tonight. Good luck to you too, Carter. And your two drivers. Jake Denehan has a real chance of scoring a race win or two here today. Yeah, we do have a little bit of a bot problem there, don't we? Want to find love, question mark? No, we want racing. Yes, Josh Downard saying no, we're gamers. Yes, that sounds about right, doesn't it? Questions for Caitlin. Do you like the Netherlands as a holiday place? From Ruben Machete. I've never been to the Netherlands. I've flown over it in a plane, but I've never actually been to the Netherlands, so I can't tell you. I would like to. I mean, there are a lot of places in the world that I would like to go to and to visit. And yeah, sure, I'd go to the Netherlands. I've known a few Dutch people over the years, and you're always rather funny and cheerful, and I appreciate that. Jake Johnston saying, what happened to your co-commentator? I presume you mean Russ. He is currently in America, and he will be back tomorrow, and therefore will be commentating in the Super League race next week. Exactly a week from now, actually, so tune in for that. And Sotos saying, Caitlin, go. Thank you very much, Sotos. I really do appreciate that. Here you see the brand new Virtual Drivers by TX3 car out on the circuit. They did make their debut at the last race, so they're not technically brand new, but it's the first time that I have seen a Virtual Drivers by TX3 car, so I am of course going to point it out. Half and half livery, BAR 1999 style, and a big crash going on there in the background, but luckily it is only the warm-up session, so it doesn't matter. Where's that symbol on the side of the TX3 car? I couldn't quite make out what that actually was. Anyway, this is the first race for them in GPVWC, sorry, the second race for them in GPVWC as a whole, as I get the hiccups briefly. Because not only did they jump straight into Formula Sprint 1, but they jumped straight into GPVWC. It was their first time. Look how busy it is out there. Everyone wanting to experience the track once again before the start of the race. The cars do handle quite differently at the start to how they did in qualifying. There's no refueling here, so you do put in as much fuel as you'll need for the entire race. Someone going for another big spin in the background. And another one of the Nocturne cars. I swear we've seen both of the Nocturne cars crash in this session so far. Anyway, whatever. I've got a message from Toby Davis on Discord saying, hope you have a good broadcast. Thank you, Toby. That is very, very nice of you to say. And good luck to you and your Nocturne drivers. They are both having accidents right now. Jake Johnson saying, the Netherlands aren't real. Okay, good to know, good to know. Well, if the Netherlands isn't real, I, being Ruben, am in a virtual world because I'm in the Netherlands relaxing, and we'll come back for Super Lights Hungary. Okay, see you for that one, Ruben, and good luck as well. Have you met Menno yet, says Josh. I presume you're talking to Ruben there, but I personally have met Menno. He has one of the strongest handshakes that you will ever feel in your life. So if you ever do meet Menno, make sure that your wrist is reinforced with iron or something, otherwise it will be coming off. Right, 5 minutes now until the end of the warm-up session, and the checkered flag comes out. And then, of course, we will be underway for our first of 2 races. Well, we do have to have the grid proceedings and then the warm-up lap first and everything. We don't go straight into the race, but then, of course, we will go to the race. The first of 2, it's a 35 lap affair. The second race will be shorter, I think 24 laps. And in the first race, you have to make a pit stop because you have to use 2 compounds of dry weather tires. There are only 2 compounds here. You have the soft and the hard, which confusingly I will often refer to as the soft and the medium because with the tire colors being red and yellow, it's like the soft and medium tires from Super League, except we don't have a hard tire compound here, so it really doesn't make much sense. That's one more tire compound than we have in Formula Sprint 2 though. There, we just have the hard. There's Owen McGorky. He'll be starting from pole position today and has a really good chance of winning this race. Keep your eye on him. Mogyorod's a driver who has improved a lot in GPWC. Not in the normal way you expect, where a driver just gets quicker and works on their pace, but Mogyorod has got better with his temperament, and he's got more consistent. Last year, of course, he ended up using up too many driver points and wasn't able to complete the championship. This year he's come in and he's immediately won 2 races. That equals his win tally from last season. He's been on the podium probably more times than anyone else in this series so far. Actually, I think that's contested between him and Tom Stevens. But he's certainly been on the podium a lot. Hasn't won since Australia though, so he's got a bit of a... I mean, it would be extremely harsh for me to call it a losing streak, but he's not had the success that he had at the start of the season. It's coming though. It really, really is. You can feel it coming. And especially after the last round, where he failed to finish on the podium for the first time of any round this season, he will be coming back with a vengeance, I can almost guarantee. Currently second in the championship sits Owen Mogyorod there. Saber Panasenko saying, do you like dogs? Yes, I do. I am actually an animal handler. That's my first job. And I have a dog myself. His name is Arlen, and sometimes you hear him in broadcasts. I apologize every time, of course, because it's a little unprofessional of me, although I don't have a dedicated studio or anything like that. But people seem to like him. He's been branded the GPVWC dog by some people that I've spoken to. I was even speaking to Menno Klont's parents at GPVWC Day last year, and they said, how's your dog doing? We love him. And yes, that was very fun. Ruben Machete saying, thank you, Caitlin. We'll hopefully have a clean race in the Super Lights. Yes, that would be good, of course. Is that your last race in the Super Lights, Ruben? Because I know you've done quite a few this season. Let me check the stats. Of course, you can do 4 races in each championship. Oh no, he's only done 2. Only done 2 Super Lights races, so he can do 2 more without being banned from going back down to Formula Sprint 2 for the rest of the season. Of course, Formula Sprint 2 being Ruben's primary objective right now, as he's running second in that particular championship. Damien Kardashev about to do a standing start practice. And another standing start practice. Quite late on in the straight, but that's okay, you're allowed to do that. And another question, Ruben saying, Caitlin, who do you think will win the Drivers' Championship in every league in the GPVWC? You. Is that a good answer? I think you're going to win all of them. I'm joking, of course. Ruben, I think you stand a very good chance of winning Formula Sprint 2, and I kind of hope you do, because you're a nice guy. But then again, you're fighting with a bunch of other really, really nice guys up there. Luke Mitchell, Jack Mayer, Scott Mitchell. So I really shouldn't be having favourites in Formula Sprint 2, especially since I think I'm technically still in contention, mathematically. I mean, realistically, no, but anyway. Okay, well, if you really are asking me to make a prediction, Formula Sprint 1, which we're watching now, could go either way between Stevens and Mogyorod. And actually, I wouldn't write off Jake Dennehan yet, because in the second half of the season, he has been absolutely the strongest driver out there. Can he catch up 40 points? Yeah, sure, actually. I mean, I'm not sure if he will, but he definitely can. He has the potential to. Because there are much more points than that available at each round. It's not like Formula 1 where there's only 1 race per round. We actually have quite a few races left in this championship. So, but he really is coming from behind, isn't he? I think the safest option would probably be to say Tom Stevens. But, I mean, Jake Dennehan's going to be a real dark horse. He's going to be in it right until the end, I am pretty sure. And of course, Owen Mogyorod, the other real challenger in that one. Super lights, let's look at the standings here. I would be slain if I didn't say Szymon Frelik, because he is currently in the same Discord channel as me right now, and leading that championship by 17 points. So, sure, go Szymon, yay, woo. No disrespect to any of the other drivers in that championship, of course. And then, of course, you reach the big guns Super League, where there is still only 10 points separating the top two, and 24 points separating the top three. And for that one, I'm probably going to say Maciej Winnick, because he has come out of nowhere in the last few races. Hasn't been on the podium in 3 rounds, come to think of it, but still up there, still scoring strong results. And I mean, yeah, it's going to be hard fighting with the Evolution guys. They're first and third right now, but I think Maciej can do it there. That's my prediction. Again, no disrespect to anyone who I didn't pick in any of those championships. And honestly, right now, we are blessed in GPVWC to have all of our championships so close and so competitive. There isn't a single one where there's a driver running away with it. And as a result, yes, I think those are just predictions and probably will change. As for the other rung we have on our championship ladder, the Academy Series, that does not have an official championship, although for some reason they are keeping score in the GPVWC 2022 standings tab that I have up in front of me. It's not fair at all, because a lot of the drivers don't intend to do the full season in Academy, and therefore you don't really end up with a champion or a worthy champion. Right now, that's currently being led by Matthias Harvig, who has won quite a few races, including both of them at New Zealand. And yeah, sure, no one's going to be catching him at this rate. Although, of course, like I said, there will not be an official champion there. Back to Formula Sprint 1, we have now completed the warm-up session. And thank you for asking that question, actually, Ruben. That kept me entertained while we were waiting for the checkered flag to come out. That was a very good one. Save of Panasenko saying GPVWC dog. And the next comment's from a person called Husky, a literal GPVWC dog. Hi, Husky. Good to see you. Dark Force says, wait, you can't do 2 series anymore. You can. You can do up to 4 races in each championship. I'm trying to think of a way to phrase this. In each championship above the one that you're doing as a main championship. And if you do more than 4, so say if you were mainly doing Formula Sprint 2 and then you did 5 races in Formula Sprint 1, you would be forced to do Formula Sprint 1 and up for the rest of the season. You wouldn't be allowed to do Formula Sprint 2 again, if that makes sense. Okay, let's take a look at the starting order, shall we? Here we are, Formula Sprint 1, Owen McGorgy will be on pole, followed by Tom Stevens, Jake Dennehan and Moritz Kropp, the 2 Nocturnes, both on the first slide of the starting order. Damien Kardash, Amari Watson, Jason Muscat and Frank Hamming in the next one. Both the HGP guys there looking quick. Maciej Heiler, Manu Klont, Philip Koenig and Craig Patterson following them up. 29 drivers in total, so this will go on for a while. Fabian Ballet, Matthias Schiabinski, Arda Erkan, Alexander Ragosa. And we have Silver Joffert, Roberto Pignataro, who's driving for his own team there. Stavros Mosaidus and Vincent Gutt, and All Valley Esports row. And Phil Haugsvik, Mike Quint, Federico Russo, and Rafał Lukaszewski. I don't know if I've said Lukaszewicz, that's what I was going to say there, but it's wrong. Noah Tuomela, bringing Smart Power back to the grid. Gerrit de Vries, Kasper Michalak and Adrian Faber. Good to see both Smart Powers there. And yes, Justin van der Smissen rounding up the grid from 29th position. In fact, he's currently in the pits, so Justin will be starting from the pit lane. I hope he starts. I presume he's just trying to keep it out of trouble. There are the tyres. Ballet will be the top driver on an alternate strategy on those hard tyres there. The top 12 starting on the softs. I'd love to see your predictions in the YouTube chat if you have any. Predictions are always fun. Sandeep Singh says which car has the best looking livery. That's a question for you guys as well, because that is a complete matter of personal preference. I'd probably say maybe Nocturne. Also quite like Valet, maybe. Okay, and now we get to the grid. Here we go. Into position at the back. Goes the 28th driver. 5 red lights will come on, and when they go out, we'll be underway for 35 laps of the Hungaroring. And it's go! And away at the front goes Owen Mogyorod. And Mogyorod's going to try to cover off Tom Stevens, and he does so. Gets the run down to turn 1. On the outside there, that's Jake Dennehan. Dennehan possibly slightly touching, rubbing wheels with Tom Stevens. And into the inside line goes Jake Dennehan. And Stevens still there. They bang wheels once again. 2 very young and yet very experienced and very capable drivers fighting it out for second place on the first lap. Stevens sweeps around the outside, claims second place. Moritz Kropp challenging as well. Kropp trying to get both of those Nocturnes into the podium positions. And it's been a clean first few corners. It looks as if everyone still has their wings, and I haven't seen any spinners. Through the chicane, always a bit of a pinch point. It's a rather slow chicane, and there is a spinner that time. Someone goes round at the back. One of the Valley Esports cars got caught up in it, and then Roberto Pignataro hit the wall slightly. And Justin van der Smissen is missing his front wing, despite starting from the pit lane. He's also just collided with Pignataro while trying to recover to the pit lane. So some more drama going on down at the back, and van der Smissen will have to come back into the pit lane that he already knows quite well in this race. Along the start-finish straight, no DRS yet. That will be active from lap 3 onwards, and there are 2 DRS zones on the circuit. Into turn 1 they go. It's a deceptively tight corner, pretty much a hairpin. Down to turn 2 now, another hairpin, a left-hander. There are 4 hairpins in a row if you count the penultimate 2 corners there. Alexander Ragosa has not been able to get into the points just yet. So it's Mogyorod leading after the first lap from Stevens, Dennehan, Kropp and Kardash, the top 5. No changes in the top 6 or 7 positions in this race. And who's that? Someone going for a big spin and another person going for a spin. And a few people rejoining into the field. Maciej Heiler was the car who got involved from 9th place on the grid. Rejoins the circuit, but without a rear wing. So that will be Heiler's race pretty much over. And the other driver involved there appeared to be Mike Quint. And Quint is out. So Quint out of the race. Gerrit de Vries now out of the race as well. And van der Smissen has been into the pits. Here's a replay on board with Maciej Heiler. He's right behind Patterson and loses it all by himself. Spins backwards into the wall. And there in the background you see Quint doing exactly the same thing, except he gets a little luckier, goes front in. Doesn't matter, they're both out of the race. So 27 drivers remaining now. And Heiler is still very much struggling to get it back to the pits, spinning all over the place without his rear wing. Another lap done now, and Stevens is sticking with Owen Mogyorod out in front, really sticking with him now. Jake Dennehan also still within what will be DRS range, and they activate DRS for the first time heading down to turn 2. Actually, I think they're not able to because the detection zone is a bit earlier than that, isn't it? But DRS will be available at the end of this lap at least. Some slight change of the order going on down there for 14th, 15th and 16th. Those are Joffert, Mosaidus and Kvil Haugsvik. Still a few cars smoking after overheating on the grid. Normally that goes away once you get some air rammed through the intake due to the speed. But normally it goes away quicker than this, so those drivers might be in a little bit of trouble there. We're on lap 3 out of 35 now. Already a 10th of the way through this race pretty much. And Craig Patterson still in P9. Is there a way we can see the graphic for the positions they've made up or lost? That would be... There we go. Thank you very much, Szymon. Oh, look at Kasper Michalak there, up 8 positions. Noah Tuamela, though, appears to be the biggest gainer so far, up 9. And of course, the drivers who are out of the race will be the biggest losers of position so far. Maciej Hyla losing 18th from his starting position because while he was impressive in qualifying, unfortunately had that incident there. Amari Watson's been involved in the chaos somewhere. Look at that, back down into P25. I didn't even see him getting involved. Adrian Faber, meanwhile, into the pits, so he has had an incident out there somewhere. I'll have a look back at what happened to Watson, because he is one of the drivers who would have been challenging for the podium today otherwise. It looks as if he already was missing his front wing by the midpoint of lap 2. So, yeah, so he lost it going into turn 5 on lap 2, dipped a wheel onto the grass, spun the car around, and then it was a very, very light tap on the barrier, but it was obviously enough to cost him his front wing. Apologies for not picking that up when it happened, but there has been a lot going on in the early stages of this race, so it's a little difficult to catch everything as it happens. Lap 4, Tom Stevens still has the DRS. Lap 5 now, sorry, still has the DRS from Owen McGorgy's car. McGorgy ever so slightly quicker than him as they cross the line. McGorgy currently with the fastest lap of the race due to his clean air out in front of him. Jake Dennehan following Stevens, and then behind them Moritz Kropp lapping someone coming out of the pit lane. And Kropp has dropped out of DRS range, so the top 3 have broken away and become the leading pack in this race. It was like a cycle race here with different packs forming. And those drivers will be helping each other down the straights. Vincent Gutt, has just backed it into the wall. He was running P20 and fighting with Kasper Michalak, and it was not Vincent's fault actually. Michalak lost control, and Gutt ploughed into him, had nowhere to go, and came off worse actually because Michalak got away without even going for a rotation. Always unfortunate when that happens. Sometimes cars lose control, it's part of racing, and sometimes there are other cars there who have absolutely nowhere to go, I'm afraid. Josh Downard saying Nova has the best livery. Oh, well, of course you would say that, wouldn't you? Alpha Delta is a close second because it's a light mode Nova. Yes, Alpha Delta, I do like that livery. Very, very good. Waffles says Menno is winning. Arda Erkan up the inside now, up to P10. That is on Mateusz Jabinski. Goes through, nice stuff. Very, very good. And if anyone's wondering where Menno Klont actually is, he isn't here today. Unsure why. Normally races for the Multiforce team, but today he is not. Fabian Ballet fighting hard with Noah Tuamela over P15 right now. Points go all the way down to P15, so that's an important one. And Federico Russo has gone for a spin. He was near that fight and drops back from it. And there is Fabian Ballet now. Kasper Michalak came into the pits at the end of that last lap. Very early to be coming in. There may have been some kind of incident there. Too late for a stop-go for a starting procedure infringement or anything, so it won't have been that. Still appeared to have a front wing. Anyway. On board with Philip Koenig, the car you see ahead of him is Jason Muscat. One of the Multiforce cars. Sorry, Menno Klont is here today. Why did I think he wasn't? Menno's running 8th. That's one of the most scatterbrain things I've said in a while, isn't it? I was looking up and down the timing screen to double check what I was saying. I was convinced I couldn't see Menno, but yeah, P8. My apologies. Huh. Dan Hayek says, I was meant to be in this race, but the contract system said no. That's probably why there's only 29 cars out here rather than 30. We could have had a full house, Dan. Oh well, hopefully you can get that sorted out for next time, Dan. That is a shame there. Which team's missing a car, actually? I've been trying to work that out kind of passively, but it's quite difficult to do so while you're also trying to not miss anything in the race. By the way, that car losing places there is Kasper Mikulak. He is a lap down. That's a slide and a big spin there for Fabian Ballet. And I'm surprised he still has his front wing there because he clouted the wall front on. Down to 17th place now. Craig Patterson. Ada Erkan's gaining on him, isn't he? Ada, who we saw getting up into P10 earlier on, is still there. Meanwhile, I think Denahan may have made a mistake on that last lap. Either that or Mogyorod and Stevens have really picked up the pace, because Mogyorod and Stevens are now 2 seconds ahead of anyone else in this race. Denahan all by himself just was not able to stick with these guys. And it's just 2 for the lead now. I must say I was a little disappointed by how spread out the qualifying order actually was, because yes, while it was close between the top 2 or 3, there was then a massive gap back to everyone else, wasn't there? And there were bits of the field where it was close, but not as close as you would like to see in Formula Sprint 1. That's saying something though, because it was still only tenths of a second between some of these drivers that I'm talking about. It's just that it's usually closer. Mogyorod goes very defensive now, trying to break the toe and stop Stevens from being able to slipstream up behind him and potentially slipstream through. Philip Koenig. Ooh, showing himself to the mirrors there of Jason Muscat's car. Now this circuit is a tricky one to overtake at. A lot of people call it Monaco without the walls, but I think that's a bit of a misnomer for 2 reasons. Number one, I mean, it does have walls. Obviously not quite as close to the track as they would be at Monaco, but they're still there, and they're still closer than they are at some other circuits. You don't want to mess with the barriers here, as a few people so far today have shown. But also, you can overtake here. It's not like Monaco where you need the driver ahead of you to mess up somehow, but you need to have the setup for it, and you need to really set it up right. The move, that is, not just the cut. And there are only a few different points on the track where you can do it. You can slipstream someone down the straight. Oh, is Joffert there? Spontaneously starts smoking and pulls over on the straight to try to get some more air into that engine of his, and yeah, that's a good way of doing it there. Another place you can theoretically overtake is down into turn 2, but usually you want to be alongside during turn 1 for that to happen. Let's see if Philip Koenig will demonstrate for us. He gets the DRS on the exit, but has a twitch on the curb, so he will not be able to get close enough to Jason Muscat just yet. Meanwhile, Van der Smissen has hit the wall again, I'm afraid. So Van der Smissen, who was in the wars on the first lap of the race, is... I think he may have had a software issue or something like that, because he did just seem to go straight on that time, down at turn 4. Turn 5, rather. It was a weird one. Okay. Half a second separating the leaders still. The corner they've just been through there, the right-hander in the final sector, is also potentially an overtaking opportunity, but usually only in the wet, or if you can really startle an opponent. It's a really cheeky one, doesn't tend to work. Same goes for the chicane, maybe. Let's see where Tom Stevens eventually tries to make that move. It's not inevitable that he's going to be able to pass Mogyorod here, but it is probably inevitable that he's going to have a go. Philip Koenig going for the switchback now. But still, Jason Muscat has the traction. He had the outside, so a little bit of a better run through that corner. Stevens got super close to Mogyorod up to 10-4 that time. Almost touching him through the corner. I've just seen a discussion, that happened just before the race started between some of the drivers. It's in the race chat in the server itself. Adrian Faber said that peeing during the race is strictly forbidden. And Noah Tuamela replied with, "Who's gonna stop me?" Yeah, that's right. Who would stop him? I certainly wouldn't police that rule. Roberto Pignataro has just been into the pits. But yes, a brilliant showing of maturity that our drivers here have. And in comes Moritz Krupp, the first of the points position running drivers. That's the word for it, isn't it? Yeah, sure. To come into the pits. So Moritz comes in, he will be going on to the harder set of tyres and running 23 laps on them. That's quite long, actually. Oh, that's another set of softs. It's a two-stopper. Moritz Krupp is electing for a two-stopper here. Also slightly smirking coming out of the pits there. Now, that doesn't surprise me as much as it would at some other circuits, because Hungarian is historically a very high tyre wear circuit. My tyres were like toast at the end of the first Formula Sprint 2 race the other day. But even so, that is a big risk there for Moritz Krupp, because he's going to get so much traffic on the strategy. Even if it's theoretically faster, it's not faster when you're being held up by slower cars and older tyres. Keep an eye on that though. Maybe Moritz knows something we don't. Maybe he's a genius. We'll have to wait and see. Here's Tom Stevens coming in too. Is it another two-stopper? Keep your eye on his tyres. Of course, there's always the other possibility that was a mistake and that he meant to change tyre compounds and didn't manage it. For some reason, misclicked or something. Jake Dennehan in behind him. And more soft tyres. It's a two-stopper. It is absolutely a two-stop race. For the nocturnes, Dennehan goes hard. So we may have a difference in strategy here between drivers two-stopping and one stopping. Whoa, there's a lot of traffic. That was so close with Alexander Rogos's rear end there. And that's one of the worst places you can come out of the pits. Look at that, 3 cars just less than a second ahead of him. Another car right in his tail. Tom Stevens has not been given the best of track positions there. He's comfortably ahead of Moritz Krupp. But Owen Mogyorod, remember, has completely clean air right now. Fun fact about the Hungarian. This place has the record for the race with the most pit stops ever in Formula 1. There were something like 78 pit stops for the whole combined field at the 2011 Hungarian Grand Prix. But that was partly due to changeable conditions, and there was a safety car period when Nick Heidfeldt's car caught fire. And yeah, it was a little less straightforward than this race, but Mogyorod now in. What does he do? Oh, if he goes for softs again, I swear, this is going to be one of the most exciting races that we've seen in a while. Hards, okay. Okay, well, let's keep an eye on where he comes out in relation to the nocturnes. Stevens is currently trying to pass. Whoa, they're almost 3 wide, and through goes Stevens, and through goes Krupp. So both of the nocturnes have undercut Owen Mogyorod, but they have to stop again. Owen Mogyorod can theoretically stay out right until the end of the race. Look at Tom Stevens up the inside. Ragosa who slides. Ragosa touches with Stevens. Krupp goes past, goes through as well. Haxon's in the middle of them, and he's not going to be making it easy because this is for position, and he is Owen Mogyorод's teammate. Goodness me. Krupp passes Patterson into the chicane. Great stuff. There's such a difference between the soft and the hard tyres here, and such a difference between new and old tyres. It's a circuit where you need grip. Stevens is still smirking. It was Crop we saw smoking before, so maybe that Nocturne is just a bit sensitive to high temperatures in the engine. There are some things... Oh my goodness, 3 wide through there? I'm not sure I've ever seen 3 wide into that hairpin before, but Patterson makes it easy for Mogyorod, unsurprisingly, and comes into the pits. Jason Muscat also in from 3rd. Damien Kardash leads the race by almost 10 seconds over Philip Koenig. There is a move, that is Tom Stevens passing Mateusz Jabinski, and Krop needs to go now, and needs to get the traction. They're rubbing wheels as well. Now this is good for Stevens because all of a sudden he has some clean air to ram through his intake. And Moritz Krop also managed to pass Mateusz Jabinski there as we spoke. Mogyorod stuck behind Stavros Mosaidus. I swear I've called him Stefan more than once. My mistake. 15 laps into this 35-lap race. Jake Dennehan also caught up now behind this bunch. Nocturne got some great track position there in the pit strategy, but if they're held up too much with these back markers, which I fear they already have been... Sorry, it's very rude of me to call these guys back markers. They are not a lap down, they just have not pitted yet. As Jason Muscat, Jake Dennehan makes a move, or looked as he was going to make a move. For Koenig into the pits. But yes, I fear the Nocturne drivers have lost too much time already. I think that for their sake, they have to focus on... I mean, maybe their target now should be a podium. I'm not convinced that they are going to be able to get back past Mogyorod and Jake Dennehan once they make their second stops here. Unless, of course, Mogyorod and Dennehan need to stop again. It's doubtful, but two-stop strategy can work either way. You can go soft, soft, hard, like the Nocturnes are doing, or you can go soft, hard, soft, which is what Mogyorod and Dennehan would be doing if they stopped again. Or you could go soft, hard, hard. I'm not judging. It would be silly, but you could. Damien Kardash leads by 12.5 seconds over Tom Stevens, but it won't matter because he will be probably the next car into the pits. Nope, never mind. Stays out another lap. Long time on those softs. We saw how much Craig Patterson was struggling before his stop. Damien's doing a good job out there. Ziabinski, Ragosa, Jofford and Bally also yet to stop, as well as some people from outside of the top 10. Lukashevsky, Russo and Gut. Mogyorod, Slipstream and Ragosa. This should be pretty easy because he will have the better braking power down into turn 1. He's off the line though, loses a little bit of time. Effectively racing cars that will be stationary with the Nocturnes, who need to start gaining some more positions. Who just changed positions on the straight? I think Muscat may have passed Ballet there. Yeah, that's for 9th place. Just saw a little flicker on my timing screen as two cars swapped. Sometimes it's difficult to work out exactly who's doing what. Justin Van der Smissen, by the way, did retire from the race after that incident a few laps ago. So we have 25 cars remaining, 22 of them on the lead lap. Quite a few lapperies for this early in the race, considering that this is a decently sized set. Oh, is that Dennehan? I think Dennehan's just hit the wall. And it is Jake Dennehan who is still going backwards now. Jake Dennehan, 3rd in the championship, but missing his front wing. He'll be forced into a 2-stopper as a result. And here is a replay of the driver who could well have been on for 2nd place in this race. A very costly mistake here on a day that is not good for TCS Off Racing. They've already lost one of their regular drivers due to a race ban, whatever that was for. He got over the curb, hit the wall with his front then went in with the rear, so he'll have suspension damage as well. That reminds me of Sergio Perez's accident in 2015, where he ran over that exact same curb and had a suspension failure as a result. Ended up on his roof. Denehan got away a bit luckier than that, because he is still in the race, but in the pits and will struggle to get anything meaningful out of this race. Okay, points still going down to P15 though, don't you forget. And the most important position in this race, aside from the win, is probably P6, because if you're in P6, you are guaranteed to benefit from the random reverse grid draw. Currently Silver Jofford, although he is yet to stop. And it's very difficult to work out who is in that position in the net order, because like I said, both of the Nocturnes have to pit for another time. And right now, who is to say where they're actually going to come out after that? Moritz Krop is gaining on Tom Stevens now. Wasn't able to keep up early on in the race, although there were a few cars between them. Although Tom Stevens has the fastest lap of anyone in this race by just 0.02 of a second from Moritz Krop. Very evenly matched times so far. Ragosa's in, Jofford's in, a few other people have been in as well. Someone was moving slowly on the exit of the corner there. Amari Watson. His race has not recovered since his incident earlier on. Had a little mistake or something there. Okay, so we're over halfway through this race now. Tom Stevens leads. It's a Nocturne 1-2, but if they pitted now, they would likely drop back to about 7th or 8th position. 7th and 8th position, most likely. Probably 6th and 7th, actually. Depending on how long it actually takes you to get down this pit lane. I presume it's a relatively short one, because the final corner, or the pit entry cuts the final corner, doesn't it? So Mateusz Szybiński still yet to come in, but he started on the hard tyre. Ahead of Fabian Ballet, one of the other drivers out there who did. So Szybiński potentially the top driver on that particular alternate strategy, but we have a few different alternate strategies out there today. As Federico Rosso pits, so Jofford is back in the points. There are other tyres. Top driver on hards right now is Owen McGorgy, but the top driver who started on hard tyres, Mateusz Szybiński. Jake Denehan, fastest of anyone, fired up after that incident that he had. 121.908, over half a second faster than any other lap we've seen in this race so far. Currently 16th place, still stands a chance of points, but he might have to divert his teammate in order to get them. The only driver to have stopped twice so far, apart from Craig Patterson, who appears to have done the same thing, so Patterson's day going from bad to worse. 14 laps to go in this one now, and into the pits comes Szybiński. So Szybiński, at last, he was the top driver yet to have pitted. Now that will be Fabian Ballet, I presume. And might still be in the top 10 here. No, he won't be, because there are a couple of cars coming through at the same time now. So he's going to drop a few positions more. P11 maybe? It's going to be close with his teammate there. And on the outside, Owen Vilhaugsvik almost gets gobbled up by his teammate, Szymon Mosaidus. Sorry, I'm getting confused. Mosaidus isn't the other PZZW car there. In fact, the other PZZW car is a lap down. That's Adrian Faber. My mistake. An automatic penalty has just gone the way of Rafał Lukaszewski, I relate to that. I picked up one of those in FS2 the other day. Track limits are rather difficult to stick to, which I know sounds like a bit of an excuse, but I mean, honestly, if you look at a bit of a slide there for Fabian Ballet. If you look at the corner where Denahan went off, that curb on the outside, it usually doesn't spin you like that. It usually kind of sucks your car out wide and wider than you expected to go. And you do get pinged for track limits there if you do exactly that. Same goes for turn 4. And if you do that too many times, I think it's about 5 or 6 times, then you get an automatic drive-through penalty given by the game, which is converted to a 25-second stop-go, or sorry, a 25-second penalty if you fail to serve it by the end of the race. Alexander Ragosa, P10. Right behind Arda Erkan, P9. The two Nocturnes are still right together, but Owen Mogyorod is in prime position to win this race. Adrian Faber now with a time penalty, although he was already well outside of the points. And he's just recovered from the pit lane, actually. So I presume it was a pit speeding penalty. Craig Patterson has just retired from this race. No surprise there, he did not look happy with his car or with how his race was going or anything along those lines. And he had an accident at turn 4 that last lap around. Had a big twitch and slammed into the wall, much like Maciej Heiler did on the 2nd or 3rd lap. So that was raced over for Craig there. And Ballet pits. In he comes. On to softs, yes, so a single stop there for Fabian Ballet. Not that we expect anything different. 24 cars remaining in this race now. 21 of those on the lead lap. 15 of them within the top minute. 2 of them within the top second. I'm going to have a look at the YouTube chat since it's still a bit calm right now. A lot of people crying over Jake's incident. Yeah, that was an unfortunate one there. An easy mistake to make. Ruben Machete saying, if this is already a 2-stopper, then Super Lights will be a 3-stop. Yes, absolutely. And Moritz is into the pits. So, where does he come out? This has a really big impact on the race. We knew that he'd have to stop again. He now has. Mogyorod easily goes through. There's Damien Kardash. Moritz will still be in contention here, because he's going to hold off Kardash. He hasn't lost nearly enough time, as much time as I thought he would. He stays in the podium position. Tom Stevens will be next, as Kardash has a big twitch. Now the gap between Mogyorod and Krop is 11 seconds with just 11 laps to go. That is probably too much, but he will still be on the podium. Siabinski and Ragosa fight over 9th position. Goes the way of Siabinski so far. Tom Stevens will probably be in this lap because in the first pit window he was in the lap after his teammate. Now he will be doing the same thing, and now this is Moritz, and look, he does come in. This is Moritz Krop's chance to overtake him, because if Krop puts the power down and has a good outlap, he could jump Tom Stevens in the pits, and then the team would not be inclined to swap the two back, I presume, unless they are prioritizing Tom Stevens for the championship at this point. Tom is 91 points ahead of Moritz Krop, so definitely more likely to win the championship, but both are strong competitors, and Tom Stevens does come out in front, so I presume that will be how they stay. So Mogyorod leads by 9 seconds now. That was a big gain on that last lap from Tom Stevens there. I'll keep my eye on that. Moritz Krop is third. The yellow flag out there somewhere. Okay. Fourth place is Damien Kardash. Fifth is Jason Muscat. Then it's Koenig, Klont, Erkan, Siabinski, and Ragosa. Erkan had a big twitch there. Siabinski goes through on the outside. Good move, even with Erkan's mistake. Ida takes a look again. The Nocturne cars are still separated by less than a second out there. And they are gaining like the clappers. My goodness. Tom Stevens is about to take another 2 seconds out of Mogyorod on this lap. Possibly over that. This race is not over yet, guys. It looked for a long time as if Mogyorod was easily winning. So Mogyorod's last lap, 1:25.6. Oh, he lost. Yeah, Mogyorod had a lot of time loss on that lap. Was he coming through traffic or what? I'll see if I can look back at that. But yeah, Mogyorod lost about 2 seconds on that lap. And then Stevens and Krop gained a second or two as well. Okay, so what actually happened is Mogyorod had to go... so Mogyorod had to go off the road in avoidance of Phil Haugsvik, who had spun. So Phil Haugsvik had spun, Mogyorod went across the grass. Even so, that has got Stevens and Krop a lot closer to him. And this race is not over. They won't quite gain by as much as they did on that last lap again. I think this next lap is going to be much more representative. Mogyorod about to complete another lap. A much cleaner one. Ah. 23.95 for Owen Mogyorod. Tom Stevens, 22.682. Still gains by over a second. 5 seconds to go. 7 laps to go. He's going to catch him, isn't he? I think he's going to get close to him. Who is going to win this race? This is going to be a really exciting finish. Even though the majority of the middle part of the race seemed quite straightforward and a little undramatic. Oh, Ragosa and Erkan touching into turn 2. Erkan getting 9th place. Erkan's another one of the most improved drivers of this season. Getting touched there by Ragosa. That's not a corner you want a little tap in the rear from. Oh, and another tap. What was I saying before that? I swear I've been distracted, but anyway. 4.5 seconds is the gap between Mogyorod and Stevens. Krop, of course, is right there with Stevens, so if Stevens can maybe force Mogyorod offline when they get to him and start the attack, maybe it could still be a Nocturne 1-2. That would be so impressive with a 2-stop strategy. Just down saying Owen got screwed over by a rejoining car, lost a few seconds. Yeah, it was Owen Haugsvik who had gone for a spin. And Yeetus My Meetus saying this is going to get Tatus. Hi, Tasty, sorry. Hi Yeetus, good to see you in the chat there. The legend himself. Tom should catch with 3 laps to go, says Josh Downard. So yeah, should get spicy. It should. Tasty like, as Ruben Machete put it. Owen will not be best friends with Phil Haugsvik, his namesake, Phil Haugsvik. But even so. Oh, and Krop spun! Krop has spun it from 3rd position. Moritz Krop is recovering from a spin there. He ran over the curbs and loop the car around. So he will not be able to keep up with his teammate here. And there you see a replay of, he's already had the incident there. But yes, if we go back a bit further, so here we are. He was coming through the S's, and then it's on the X of the next right-hander that it happens. He got onto the curb and looped the car. Oh my goodness, he was so lucky not to go spearing into the wall, and very lucky not to be cleared up by that backmarker there. And actually, in fairness, that backmarker was owing Phil Haugsvik, so if he did make a mistake earlier on in rejoining and getting in the way of Owen Mogyorod, and he has just made up for it, I think, by avoiding Moritz Krop. Could very easily have just ploughed into him, I think. Got transfixed or something. The battles in these last 6 laps. First of all, you've got the one that isn't quite on yet, but will be. Mogyorod versus Stevens. And that, of course, is the most important fight of the race, being for the lead. We also have Erkan versus Ragosa, which I'm watching now on my other monitor. You guys are watching Silver Jofford versus Stavros Mosaidus for P11. Another very exciting fight. All of these could be quite important here, especially the one for 9th and 10th, because with the reverse grid being any number between 6 and 10 cars picked at random, 9th and 10th are very important positions to be fighting over. 9th gives you double the chance to be put on reverse grid pole. And if you're not, even if you're second on the grid, that's still the front row there. 5 laps to go, 6 including the one we're on. Smoke from Silver Jofford's car, as we've seen from quite a few cars so far today. Is that also smoke there from Ali behind him? I think it might just be the smoke from Jofford carrying over and make it look like they're both struggling. And a lot of curb being used. I don't think Stevens has gained quite as much on this lap as he has in the past few on Mogyorod. Probably more like 6 or 7 tenths per second this time around. Let me go to check. So Stevens' lap time, 1:23 dead, which has been very similar to his last few laps. And Mogyorod's lap time was, when it loads, 1:23.786. So yeah, so about 6 or 7, more like 7 tenths of a second gained on that lap. More yellow flags out there somewhere. Not something we ever like to see. Noah Tuamela appears to be recovering from something. Meanwhile, Jake Dennehan up to 14th place. Good recovery drive from the driver who definitely had the pace to be on the podium. And actually, while Mogyorod was probably relieved at the time that Stevens went off, he could really do with Tom Stevens being out there right now, acting as a sort of unwilling wingman, because providing Stevens was still behind Mogyorod at this point, he would now be fighting with Tom Stevens, and that would hold Stevens up enough for Owen Mogyorod. Owen Mogyorod will probably have won this race. Definitely is still the favourite to win it, but yeah, almost definitely would have won this race if Dennehan hadn't gone for that spin. On the last lap, Mogyorod 1:23.8, and he's wiggling a bit up the straight. That was a bit weird. Tom Stevens 1:22.999. Stevens might get DRS at the end of this lap. Look how close he is. There is a car between the two of them now. That's Frank Hamming. But he can absolutely see Owen Mogyorod here, and he is absolutely flying. Stevens, that is. Unfortunately, not Mogyorod right now. Or fortunately, depending on what way you look at it, because now we have a real fight on our hands into the final few corners of the lap. The DRS Detection Zone is on the start of the final corner. It's a little line across the track. You might get it, you know. I think Tom Stevens has DRS for the first time. He does. First time since he's re-caught Owen Mogyorod. 3 laps to go, including this one. That is the time that Stevens has to try to get past Owen Mogyorod here. Turn 2. Apologies there, just taking a little drink of water. Okay. Hopping over the curb. This middle sector's tricky. A lot of turbulent air coming off the car in front. And now, of course, Stevens' tyres won't be quite as overpowered as they were before. Mogyorod very wide, nearly touches the grass. Crop is gaining again, but not by anywhere near enough. Unless these two have a collision. That's Crop's only chance, really, of getting back into contention for this win. It's all down now to Owen Mogyorod and Tom Stevens. Final turn to begin the penultimate lap of the race. Here we go. Mogyorod going very defensive, very weavy. Stevens gaining to the outside now. And do they make the apex? There may have been a slight brush of wheels. And Stevens goes right around the outside of Owen Mogyorod to take the lead here at the Hungaroring. And they touch! They do touch there! Mogyorod runs into the back of him. Stevens somehow does not spin around. And Mogyorod is in danger of having... Is that Frank Hamming unlap himself there? Frank Hamming all over the back of him in 19th place. But a great move from Tom Stevens. I don't remember the last time someone who two-stopped in the dry won an FS1 or Super Cup race. Here's a replay of it. Mogyorод's done his weaving. He can't weave anymore. Stevens went to the outside. Mogyorod did make the apex. They just about got away with a brush. And through went Tom Stevens. Now take a look at the contact here. Bonk. Wow. Gets away with it. That's a corner where the car gets so light on the rear, so I don't quite know how he's got away with it there. But he has. Already out of DRS range for Mogyorod's car. Tom Stevens is cruising to this one now. Final lap of the race has just begun. Tom Stevens leading. And it's Mogyorod and Crop. Crop doesn't quite have enough time to catch Mogyorod, but a few more laps. Or just if he hadn't had that spin, then he would. Noah Tuamela is now out of this race, I'm afraid. Will not run the very last lap of this race. May have run out of fuel or something, actually. Appeared to pull over smoking. Of course, smoke doesn't indicate a fuel issue, but normally if the engine fully expires, you expect to see fire or something. Okay, so Tom Stevens has driven an amazing race. And despite having to stop in the pit lane twice, it looks as if he's going to do it. Oh, Koenig just hit Muscat for 5th, sorry. Koenig just hit Muscat and sent him into the wall. Jason Muscat does not have a rear wing now. He's let him back through, but, I mean, Muscat is... Sorry, no, that's Clonk going back through to 5th now. But there is Tom Stevens winning at the Hungaroring. What a drive there from the Nocturne racer. Mogyorod will be second, Moritz Kropp will be third. Great drive from all three of those cars. Damien Kardash will be P4. Menno Klont claims P5 as a result of that collision on the last lap of the race. Muscat's going to do well to finish here. So Klont 5th, Koenig 6th. Looked as if he wanted to give the place back, but then realised too late that Muscat had lost his rear wing. Szyabinski P7. 8th is Ada Erkan, then it's Stavros Mosaidus. Jason Muscat does finish P10. He's lost his front wing as well now. And, no, sorry, lost P10. So 10th was Alexander Rogosov, then it was Jason Muscat. And Jake Denahan, good recovery drive, will be kicking himself for that mistake. Fabian Bali, Silver Joffert, and Federico Russo, the final cars with points. Here is a replay. This is Philip Koenig. Yeah, so it was down into the chicane that this collision happened. He was fighting for 5th on the final lap with Jason Muscat, and he went for it, but that was a bit ambitious there. Straight into the back of Jason Muscat's car. Muscat's lucky he lost his front wing as well there, actually, because it's easier to drive a car without any wings than it is with just the front and no rear. Missing out on the points in the end were Amari Watson, Vincent Gutt, Rafał Lukaszewski, Frank Hamming, Owen Vilhaugsvik, Maciej Heiler, Roberto Pignataro, Adrian Faber, and then of course all of the DNFs that we had. There you see the order again, with the Nocturnes 1-3. A great performance from them, and Owen Mogyorod sandwiching himself in between them. So does that mean that race 2 is going to be a one-stop race? Normally, of course, you don't stop at all in the second race, but if they all decided to stop twice, or if a lot of them decided to stop twice, including the race winner in the first race, I think that means that it might be worth going for that stop, eh? Only Nocturne stopped twice, apparently. Yeah, you say that, Szymon, but it worked for them. And Denahan didn't lose as much as I'd expect him to, despite the incident, and he stopped twice, of course. Oh, it's one of the Multiforce cars. That was Menno Klont spearing into the wall after the race. I think that was accidental. If it was accidental, he'll get away with it, because it was after turn 1. And then, of course, you see the rest of the order there. And a few retirements, finishing further down. Okay, so that was the end of the first race, but please do not go anywhere, because we will have another one for you. And it will be, I think, 24 laps. An exciting one, with a partially reverse grid to keep it even more spicy. So don't go anywhere, and we'll see you in just a few minutes. Welcome back, everyone. Hello. Welcome back to round 10 of the GPVWC 2022 Formula Sprint 1 Championship. I have 3 bits of good news. First of all, my cat has come to visit me. That's always good news. Secondly, my sister's made a cheesecake, so I will be having some of that after this broadcast. And the third and best bit of good news is that we have another race coming up in just a few moments' time. My cat just meowed. I think I'm going to let her out of the room before she does that again during the race. Okay, I will be back very, very quickly, and then we will go through the grid. Okay, now cat's out of the way, let's take a look at the starting order for today. The reverse grid number that was drawn was 9, so almost the maximum that could have been drawn. So Stavros Mosaidus will be starting from pole, followed by Arda Erkan, then Matthias Jabinski and Philip Koenig. And on the second slide will be Menno Klont, Damien Kardash, Moritz Kropp and Owen Mogyorod. Mogyorod, of course, having a lot of pace, but maybe not quite getting the strategy right. It was always going to be close between a 1 and 2 stop. Tom Stevens, the brilliant race 1 winner, then just missing out on the reverse grid pole was Alexander Ragosa, and it was Jason Muscat and Damien Kardash, Fabian Bali, Silva Joffert, Federico Russo and Amari Watson. Following them, Rafał Lukaszewski, Frank Hamming, Owen Kwiatkowski and Maciej Heiler. And now we're getting down to the people in the order who may have had issues or incidents in the first race. There's Roberto Pignataro, Adrian Faber, Noah Tuamela and Craig Patterson. We're into the retirements now. All of these drivers still allowed to start the second race. They don't have to do any damage repairs or anything like that. Kasper Michalak, Mike Quint and Kjert de Vries. So we have 27 cars out here. 2 have obviously elected not to take the second start. Leave your predictions in the YouTube chat as to who you think is going to be able to win this one, and also what the strategy is. Well, I tell you what, if you look at those tyres, all of those drivers on softs are surely going to have to stop. They will have to. The drivers on hards, maybe not. I mean, there's still a chance, but if they've gone for hards, then probably not. Otherwise, they would have gone for soft. So I reckon that this is not just hards versus softs, but 0 stops versus 1 stops. Keep your eyes out for that. The top driver on the softs is Siabinski in 3rd place. I'm gonna say I'm gonna put my finger on Menno Klont. I'm gonna say, Menno, you can do it. Come on. So, if anyone else agrees with me or disagrees with me, feel free to put that in the YouTube chat, and we will see who was right at the end of the race. Here we go then, 23 laps to go. The lights are coming on 1 by 1, and when they go out, it will be underway for 23 laps of racing, and it's go! Stavros Mosaidus will lead us away from the front of the grid. There is Arda Erkan trying to stick just a nose to the inside, and a great start there from Mateusz Ziebinski on the soft tyres, gets the traction and the speed, and tries to go around the outside of Stavros Mosaidus, keeps second. So it's Mosaidus, then Ziebinski, who challenges into turn 2, is shown the door. Arda Erkan still in third place, and I don't think that the tyres we're seeing out there right now are exactly right, so we'll have to check back in on that later on in the lap. The rest of the field streaming through now, through turn 4. Oh, that was tight. Little contact further back. Roberto Pignataro has once again been involved in a first lap skirmish. He's been around down at turn 3, and that is Mogyorod and Plont, or is it Stevens? Well, it's one of the Nocturnes fighting with Mogyorod, just as we saw in race 1. And that would have been Tom Stevens, because Moritz Kropp is a few cars up the road. Yellow flags out there somewhere, someone dropping. Frank Hamming again. So Frank Hamming once again has been involved in an incident early on, as, yes, he's lost his rear wing there. And further up you see that was Tom Stevens fighting with Menno Klont. He's already got past him. Not the greatest start there from Menno, but then again, of course it wasn't, because I said he was going to have a good one. Out of the final corner of this first lap of the race, the biggest gainer, Noah Tuomela, up 7 places. But look at the leaders. Ziebinski on the soft tyres has to make his move now, and does. He's on the outside line and held out to dry a bit, but there's going to be traction out there, and he has more traction anyway. And I presume he's going to take the lead here. Ziebinski does go through. Now, can he build up enough of a gap that it's worth making a pit stop? I mean, he'll have to anyway. Kardash has just been off the road. Rejoins. So at the end of the first lap, it's Ziebinski, Mosaidus, Erkan, Koenig, Kropp, Stevens, Ragosa, Mogyorod, Klont, and Denahan, the top 10 there. Jake Denahan, who started 12th, still trying to recover from that mistake that he made in race 1. More yellow flags out there somewhere. Ziebinski has already got over a second's advantage. Craig Patterson's had another incident. He is without his front wing at the side of the circuit here. Ooh, Kardash fighting with Muscat. Fighting hard and running very wide there, forced out. He'd have got an automatic track limits warning for that as well. So we'll have to watch how many times he actually does that in this one. And I can confirm that Patterson's incident happened all by himself, right in front of Mike Quint, who did exactly the same incident in the last race. Lap 2 is done, and here is Moritz Kropp, slipstreaming Philip Koenig. To the outside he goes. Kropp once again appears to be making one more pit stop than strictly necessary, because he is on the hard tyres and fighting with Stevens, and gives way, but that was very risky, because now he's going to give way to Ragosa as well. That is not what he needed to be doing. Didn't want to make it too hard for Tom Stevens, but I think he made it too easy for Ragosa, I'm afraid. Down to 7th place goes Moritz Kropp now. And that's time lost that he really can't be dealing with right now. 3 seconds the advantage for Ziebinski. Ziebinski really getting away now. That is a very good lead. Exactly what he needs to be doing. Mosaidus knows that he still has the advantage here, but he can't drop back too much, because if he holds the rest of the pack up too much here, yes, they might not be able to overtake him anytime soon, but Ziebinski would be able to make his stop and still come out in a fighting position and be able to potentially attack Mosaidus for the lead later on. I expect that when all of these drivers come in for softs, they will come out behind some of the drivers that they'll need to pass. But that will be something that they'll have taken into consideration in their strategies. Stevens trying to go around the outside of Philip Koenig. Very much hung out to dry. Still opens the DRS though. Opened it while he was partially off the circuit. Oh, he's going to go off again. There's contact with Koenig. Koenig spins. Philip Koenig spins out of the top 10. That puts Ragosa up to 5th now. That was a bit of a shame between those two there. Neither of them really giving each other much room. 2 corners in a row. But anyway, the race continues. Ziebinski leads by 5 seconds over Mosaidus, Ercan, Stevens and Ragosa. 2 retirements so far, with those being Hamming and Patterson. 2 of the big drivers who could have come through the field in this one. Koenig is running 17th after that one. Still with a chance of points, but not of a podium or whatever he was going to get before. There are Jake Dennehan and Damien Kardash. Dennehan lost a lot of points in race 1. That's why earlier I was very reluctant to say that he would gain the 40 points, because I think he's definitely got the ability for it. Sorry, we've got Ercan taking a look at Mosaidus there. Stevens, the top driver on softs now. Oh, sorry, no, apart from Ziebinski, obviously. Oh, that was close. Up the inside, they touch wheels. Stevens goes through. Even now, if he gets past Mosaidus, it's going to be really difficult for him to go chasing Ziebinski. Further back, I just saw Maciej Heiler have a bit of an off. Hasn't been the greatest of days for him, has it? Arda Ercan has Moritz Krop to his inside. Oh, I tell you what, that's because he's just passed him, hasn't he? I was looking down for that. But yes, Ercan got past Krop, and then was repassed, and Mogyorod has gone through as well. Mogyorod on hard tyres. Once again, appears to have the advantage over the Nocturnes. But I said that in race 1, and then look. Biggest winners, Adrian Faber up 7. Kasper Michalak was up 7, has just been overtaken. And was overtaken again, actually, so not the best couple of corners for Michalak. Wide and over the curbs goes Krop. Down the straight, good bit of slipstream. Stevens will have the better braking on the outside. And goes through on Mosaidus. So Tom Stevens, just as he pulled that move on Owen Mogyorod in the last race, he's now done the same to Stefan Mosaidus. And will try to get off to Ziebinski, but there's 7 seconds for him to gain. And he's in danger of dropping well into the pack once he makes his pit stop, whenever that will actually be. Probably between lap 10 and lap 15. Ragosa there. P4. But over the chicane they go. Big twitch from Alexander Ragosa. Very big one. The curbs through there are so much nastier than they look. They've still got sausage curbs there. And very wide for Moritz Krop. A lot of people ignoring track limits into that corner. Keep an eye out for automatic penalties that might befall any of these drivers. Ragosa's going to get Mosaidus this time around. Remember though, every overtake you're seeing here, yes, it doesn't help Mosaidus, but it's also not hurting him anywhere near as much as it might seem. Mosaidus absolutely can still win this race. Who's smoking? It's one of the Nocturnes again, isn't it? It's Tom Stevens. Sorry, Moritz Krop. Ragosa does go through. Little touch, and Krop's going to follow him through. If he can use the DRS effectively on the exit. Goes to the inside. Mosaidus leaves the door open when we ushers him through, but the next corner is a right-hander. Krop's still there. Now this is dangerous, up to turn 4. Has to back out of it. Sometimes drivers don't want to back out of it because they think it's then or never. And then you end up having a very nasty incident into that. Menno Klont just past Silver Joffert, that's for P10. Joffert not having a bad race. Still very much in contention for a top 10 finish, although on the soft tyres, so would have hoped to have improved by more than this by now. Moritz Krop is the next driver who will have a chance to attack Stavros Mosaidus. Incidentally, the next highest driver on the hard tyres is Owen Mogyorod, who also still has a pretty good chance of winning this race, despite only being 7th right now. Out of the final corner for another time. Stevens has already got 3 seconds ahead of Ragosa Crop to the outside of Mosaidus. This is for P4. DRS wide open on the exit. You'll have the inside line. Needs to get some clean air for that desperate, gasping engine. And goes through. So Crop does go through. Whoa, big slide for Damien Kardash. Thought he was going to do the same thing, but got it all wrong. So he's now been passed by Mogyorod and Denahan. And still getting out of shape into turn 5. Lap 8 out of 23. Not too long until we're going to start seeing the pit stops for some of the soft runners, because there is no way that they can do 23 laps on the soft tyres on a track where some people were doing 2-stop strategies in race 1. That is not the track they're on. There we go, that's more like it. Stevens gets the lead gap down to less than 5 seconds now, for the first time in a while. And a move just happened. Ooh, Denahan is side by side with Kardash. That's Kardash trying to go right around the outside of him. Onto the straight they go. Locking wheels almost. Overlapping. Mogyorod taking a look at Mosaidus. That's a very important one. And there was a little touch between Denahan and Kardash. And Denahan will still have Kardash on his inside. I hope he knows it. There we go. Now the Mosaidus-Mogyorod fight is possibly the most important one in the race right now, because number one, how much they hold each other up here is going to determine how effective a one-stop... Oh, big slide. That's Kardash. And Denahan gets hung out to dry. Yes, it's going to... So how much Mosaidus and Mogyorod hold each other up is going to determine how much time the one-stoppers gain on them. And also, it's going to determine who is the top runner of the hard tyres, which has a really big impact on the finishing order. There you see them. Denahan, the third hard-tyred runner, although he's far enough back now that I think he's going to be well and truly in danger of being passed by some of the soft runners once they've made their stops. Across the line, lap 10 now, we're into the double digits. Mosaidus goes defensive, Mogyorod to the outside. This would be such a good move. He'll have the DRS, he was behind into the activation zone. To the right-hand side. Switchback, touches him. Touches him just like he did to Stevens in race 1. Up the hill they go. Watson and Faber swap further back, apparently. That's for 14th. Right over the inside curb goes Mogyorod. So Mosaidus holds on for another lap. Great driving from Stavros Mosaidus. A masterclass in defense. 13 seconds back from Ziabinski. I don't know exactly how much time the leaders lose with a pit stop, but it's probably about 27 or 28 seconds. Pit stops here tend to take slightly longer than they do in Super League. Maybe 5 or 6 seconds. Possibly a little bit longer. But then you get the run through the pit lane as well. Like 22 seconds is Szymon. Are you sure? Because yesterday I did a couple of tyre changes in FS2 and they took about 10 seconds. Anyway, here comes Mogyorod to the outside. I think you might be thinking about the full pit lane, right, Szymon? Or anyway, up the inside goes Owen Mogyorod now on Stavros Mosaidus into turn 2. Around the outside. Ooh, almost crowding him off the road. But yes, Mogyorod has now got the position ahead of Stavros Mosaidus. And Owen Mogyorod is in prime position now. But he's got to push for this entire race. Ziabinski's really been caught by Stevens here and runs wide. Stevens almost within a second. What's happened to Quint, I think? No, it was Russo, sorry. Russo's been off the road. And into the pits comes our race leader, Mateusz Ziobinski. Didn't want to fight Tom Stevens on the road, and I don't blame him. But now, what happens? He's going to put on the soft tyres, another set of them. In behind him, that looks like Damian Kardash. Oh, it's Ragosa, sorry. And they will push. The pit stop probably about 7 seconds there. Yeah, I think, Szymon, I think you were referring to the full pit lane costing them about 22, 23 seconds maybe. Which is quite short as far as pit lanes go. But, yeah, Ziobinski out into 14th position. But a lot of the drivers ahead of him will still require a pit stop, so that is not a representative position at all. All of the top, well, both of the top two, sorry, so both of the Nocturnes will also still need to stop. Mogyorod is the top driver who probably won't. There he is, Mogyorod, Nova Sim Racing. Pit stops are not mandatory in this race. You only need to use 2 compounds of dry tyre in race 1. In race 2, you can do whatever the heck you like. Steven stays out for another lap. Isn't too worried about the time that Ziobinski will be gaining on those fresh tyres. Here De Vries is now out of the race. He's had an incident at turn 4 on that last lap. Turn 4, the real Axton black spot of today, has cast lose control on the curbs and slam into either the inside or outside barriers. Damian Kardash into the pits now. Also in Adrian Faber. There's Mosaidus being passed by Denahan. Ziobinski will be well ahead of all of the drivers who are in the pits right now. He had the gap and will probably still be ahead of Tom Stevens after all of this, but it really does depend on how fast Stevens' in-laps are. There were a couple of other drivers out of the race actually. Maciej Heiler, we didn't see him stop, but he is out. And Kasper Michalak is also out of this race. Heiler had no luck today. He was super quick in qualifying, but he's had incidents in both races. This time it was coming out of the... Oh, I tell you what, it was... He had the DRS open and he was trying to pass Noah Tuomela and lost control on a straight line. I've seen that happen quite a few times recently, actually, in a lot of different categories. Into the pits now comes Moritz Kropp. So Kropp decides to pit before his Nocturne teammate, just as he did both times in race 1. Where will he come out in relation to Mateusz Ziobinski? He's going to be behind him, I think. But by how much? Up on the jacks. Car goes down. Out into the first lane he goes. Ziobinski has already gone through. So has Philip Koenig. And that is Alexander Ragosa who stopped. And importantly, Kropp gets him. So Moritz Kropp is able to go ahead of Alexander Ragosa, who is still there trying to force his way up the inside to the outside, but obviously the inside there's quicker. And it's over 12th position right now, but later on, that will probably be over a much more important position in this race. Maybe 4th, maybe even 3rd. Michalak's incident, incidentally, was out of the penultimate corner a while ago. Right there, spun it into the wall on the left, driver's left. And Erda Erkan has just recovered from something, putting Philip Koenig back into the top 10. Here's Mogyorod. 12 seconds back from Tom Stevens. Will lead this race not too long. 7 laps to go now. Tom will be thinking to himself, can I stay out this whole way? I very much doubt it, but You have to remember, theoretically, you can stay out the whole time. You don't get punctures in Factor 2. It's just that you hit a cliff, effectively, and you fall off that cliff, and your tires just drop. Your tire performance just drops, and then you've got no grip whatsoever. Through turn 4, there's Jabinski. Caught up behind Watson. Every car you see there, especially the ones with yellow wall tyres, Ziebinski needs to pass now in order to have a chance to win this race. Tom Stevens does come in as expected. A little later than expected, but he does come in. Owen Mogyorod will lead this race. Stevens is racing with Ziebinski right now. He had more laps on those older tyres, but he was in clean air the whole time. So who benefited? It all depends on what the lap times were like before they came in. Oh, someone spun coming out the final corner, didn't they? Just saw someone go bouncing off the wall. Was that Tom Stevens? No, it wasn't. Sorry, Stevens came out the pits. My apologies. And Stevens has come out ahead. In fact, way ahead of Mateusz Ziebinski. He's really gained that. Tom Stevens P5, Mateusz Ziebinski P9. Right. And with 7 laps to go, including the one we're on now, Tom Stevens has 8 seconds to gain to the leader. But there are cars in between them. Has something happened to Kardash and Quint there? Because they are dropping like flies. Yes, Kardash is missing his front wing out there. So Kardash has bounced off the wall. That was out of turn 2, and it's because Quint lost it ahead of him. Yes, so Quint lost control, and Kardash had nowhere to go. Damn. Kardash out the race now, retiring. Here's Tom Stevens on the tail of Menno Klon, the driver who I tipped to win, but hasn't gone that way. It was mostly as a result of that poor start there. He's now going to be passed by Stevens in a straight line. Here we go. To the outside he goes. Tom Stevens takes 4th place. Meanwhile, Roberto Pignataro has retired from this race, unfortunately, which probably explains one of the yellow flags I've recently seen. Moritz Kropp just passed Murray Watson too. Looks like Pignataro just pulled off to the side of the road, potentially. Maybe gave up. Oh no, he had an instant, hit the wall, lost his front wing, and then gave up. And Watson's out, so yes, I saw him swap places with someone just a few moments ago, and I think he was having issues because Murray Watson is out of this race. Stevens' next target is Stavros Mosaidus. The Murray Watson incident happened when he was running in 8th position. He was fighting with Fabian Ballet, went up the inside, and they just locked wheels, and around went Murray Watson into the wall, decided not to continue without his front wing. There was a lot of track to go from where he was in order to get back to the pits. Here's Stevens on the back of Mosaidus. Surely this is going to be quite straightforward. The Nocturne car is fast in a straight line, and you'll have the better braking and turn-in performance. And Tom Stevens is up into the podium positions now. 5 laps to go. Denahan's going to be a sitting duck, but what about Mogyorod? Does Stevens have enough pace to catch Owen? He is catching him, but every car he passes costs him an indeterminate amount of time. So he's just got to keep pushing and see what he can do. Oh, Mogyorod would absolutely deserve this win if he took it. So would Tom Stevens. Another yellow flag. Lots of that going on today. Mike Quint has recently retired. Looks like everyone out in front's okay. Damien Kardash also DNF'd after his incident, although I've said that already. Tom Stevens has already caught up to Jake Dennehan. He's already within half a second of him. Dennehan goes massively defensive, but unfortunately for him, I don't think there's anything he can do here. Defend off Tom Stevens. Tom is just too quick. Goes to the inside. Dennehan is forced to give him room, and through goes Tom Stevens into second place. 5 laps to go, including this one. So more like 4.5, really. 4 3/4. And there is 3.7 seconds to gain for Tom Stevens now to catch Owen Mogyorod. I think he might just catch him right towards the end, but passing is another matter. He may need a mistake from Mogyorod or an incident involving a backmarker, just like they had in race 1. He is getting fairly close to passing some backmarkers, actually. Oh, Ragosa and Erkan have just taken each other off the road. They were fighting for 10th place. There they are. They haven't lost a position, but won't have done them any good. Ragosa was trying to come right around the outside on his soft tyres. They went side by side into turn 4, which is always asking for trouble, and both of them looped it. And ironically, Ragosa made the overtake. One of the most bizarre overtakes we've seen so far today, but anyway. Across the line, the gap between the top two, 2.6 seconds. What were the lap times? Okay, Stevens' lap time was 122.2. 122.3 if you round it. And then Mogyorod 123.6. Yeah, my goodness. It's just like race 1. This feels exactly like the last few laps of race 1, with Tom Stevens definitely on course to catch Owen Mogyorod on fresher, soft tyres. But he will have to pass him on track. He's done it once already. He'll have to do it again. There's Krop trying to catch Bally. This would be Virtual Drivers by TX3's first top 10 in GPVWC. If Fabian Bally was to keep it in the top 10, he's P7 so far, doing a very good job. Moritz Krop is quite likely to pass him on those fresh tyres, but even so, 8th would not be bad whatsoever. Neither would 9th, because Sierbiński is right there. So Krop has got past Sierbiński not that long ago. Another lap about to begin. Jake Dennehan up 9 places from his starting position. Only 18 cars remaining. It's been a real race of attrition here, much more so than race 1. And race 1, there felt like there were quite a few. Stevens 1.5 seconds behind Mogyorod as they cross the start-finish line. Keep an eye on that gap. It will be coming down almost relentlessly throughout the course of this lap. Here's the back straight. Turn 4. Turn 5. Third gear. And he'll go down to second for the chicane. Avoids the sausage curbs. Takes a lot of curb on the exit though. Then we reach the S's. This is what's doing all the damage to the tyres, I expect. As well as those constant radius hairpins in the final sector. This corner's always fun. Little flick to the right. And he's within half a second of our race leader now. And there is traffic coming up. Rafał Lukaszewski gives them room. Through they go. Whoa! And Mogyorод's left the door wide open, and Tom Stevens goes up the inside, and I think Mogyorод's just trying to get DRS here, but he's done it too late, because the DRS detection zone was before the corner, so Stevens got it and passed Mogyorod there. Either that or Mogyorod made a mistake, but it looked weird. Anyway, Tom Stevens takes the lead of the race, just as he did in race 1. It's almost been a carbon copy of the last few laps of the first race, and once again it's going to be Tom Stevens leading from Owen Mogyorod. Whoa, Lukaszewski loses it in the background. I thought that may have been Dennehan briefly, but he's not quite that close to them. Lukashevsky rejoins into this race. He's the first car a lap down. And who was third in race 1? Well, it wasn't Denehan, because Denehan had that incident. I've already forgotten. It was way too long ago. Moritz Kropp, sorry, yes, of course it was. Kropp, meanwhile, still stuck behind Ballet. There they are. So, Craig Patterson says, well, that's my season over and done in the YouTube chat. Really sorry to see that. I hope you don't mean you're going to be quitting before the end of the season, because Craig, you've had a lot of pace. You have some potential for podiums here. But, yeah, today, I'm not going to lie, it was a really tough day for Craig Patterson. Final lap now. Stevens already leading by 2 seconds over Mogyorod. He is going to cruise to this victory here. Moritz Kropp's going to have a bit of a tougher time with that smooking engine and those cars directly ahead of him. Ruben Machete reminded me that Moritz was P3 in race 1. Yes, thank you very much. I know that now, it's just race 1 was such a long time ago, I couldn't remember off the top of my head in the moment. Okie dokie. There is Tom Stevens now. Through the S's for the final time today. It's very rare that we get a double victory in GPVWC Formula Sprint 1 in either of the Formula Sprint Junior categories. It hasn't happened yet this season, but it's going to happen today. Just a couple more corners to go as I desperately try to look up when the last time that happened actually was. I know it was last season at some point, and I have a feeling it was Tom Stevens then too. Out of the final corner, and Tom Stevens wins again at the Hungaroring. Amazing stuff. And Mogyorod is once again P2. Also amazing stuff. Jake Denehan with quite a recovery drive. Remember, he started 13th in this race. Stavros Mosaidus is P4. Then it's Meadow Clont, Jason Muscat, Fabian Ballet, scoring that team's first ever top 10 finish. Moritz Kropp was not able to get through in the end. Then it was Mateusz Jabinski and Alexander Ragosa. Also in the points, Ada Erkan, Silver Joffert, Owen Phil-Haugsvik, Federico Rosso, and Adrian Faber. Philip Koenig retired on the last lap there, lost his last chance of points somehow. I'll have a quick look back at what... Oh, it was a lag spike between him and Adrian Faber. So Faber lagged into Koenig, and Koenig went hard into the wall. No fault of anyone's there. And that ends up giving Faber the last point. That's a shame. Not that Faber scored a point, obviously, but you know what I mean. Oh, look at that. Come on, Noah, you can make it. There we go. Just about creeps across the line with obviously no fuel left in the tank. And 18th place in the end will go to Rafał Lukaszewski, who is currently beating up Sylvie Offert in the runoff area at turn 2, which you're not technically supposed to do after the race, but anyway. Tom Stevens has won both races today. Utterly dominant drives, despite the unusual strategies. Owen Mogyorod was second, taking a much more traditional Formula Sprint 1 strategy, and having it work to an extent, but not able to win today. Jake Denehan was third, good recovery drive. He will still be kicking himself for that race 1 instant though, because he could have won the race otherwise. Of course, we don't know if he would have done. It would have been a completely different set of circumstances, as Rafał Lukaszewski is currently driving the wrong way up the road. Surely he's going to get an automatic disqualification for that, even though it's after the race. Careful, dude. Anyway, that's the lot. So we are going to go to some interviews now, as you see the rest of the field there. It shows you just how jumbled up the race was at the end there, that Philip Koenig was able to DNF and still finish 16th. So he'll be classified 16th, rather. Okie dokie, well, the first driver we're going to talk to is Owen Mogyorod, who finished second in both races today. Owen, a double podium finish is always a good thing, but you've had so many podiums recently. You must be aching for a win now.
Well, I mean, I did have a podium every single round apart from last round, which was a bit annoying, but to come back and get 2 second places on track is pretty good. I don't know how the final results will be because I heard some stuff happened. I don't know who's going to get penalties and who won't, but I don't really want to cause anything. Just yeah, it feels good to have 2 podiums though.
Okay, well, it's good to see that you're taking the positives out of it, and so you should. What a fight you had with Tom Stevens in both races, though. Alternate strategies, and they came together towards the end of both races in a very similar way. It was almost like a replay. Talk us through those fights, if you will.
They weren't really fights because there's no way you can defend from someone who's on a softer, faster, newer tire, who's got DRS, and you can't even get DRS for the second straight, which is a bit annoying. Like there's only one detection point for some reason because it's a nice track, isn't it? But yeah, I don't know what else to say really.
Okay, well, you finished second anyway, in both races, obviously. You, of course, came into this round separated by just 1 point from Tom Stevens in the championship. Obviously, you're a little further back than that, but you both cleared Jake Dennehan. So, does it feel like a 2-horse race for the championship now?
No, it's not a 2-horse race.
Okay.
No, definitely not.
Who are you most worried about, Jake?
I'm not most worried about anyone, but Jake's still there. He's not out of it. We still got 6 rounds to go. And, anything can happen because we've got 50 points ahead of him in these past 9 rounds or 10 rounds. You can't say he won't get those 50 points back if we get some just unlucky races, really. Because apart from I've had some pretty lucky races and some pretty mediocre races, but these past 2 rounds I've crashed by myself in race 1 of Austria and lost about 10-15 points there, and I've also almost been taken out by a back marker in race 1 here, and
that was a close one.
Yeah, some people are a bit
silly. Yeah, we saw that. Do you think it cost you the win, maybe?
Yeah, I lost about 2-3 seconds from it, and I wasn't very motivated after that because it just got me a bit annoyed.
Understandable. Well, congratulations on those podiums anyway, and thank you for talking to us.
Cheers.
Okie dokie. Next up, we are going to move up a step on the podium to Tom Stevens, who won both races here today. Tom, fantastic job. Tom, I don't even know when the last time that happened was, but it was you, wasn't it? It was at France last year. You're good at these double victories. Fantastic. How does that feel to have scored to have driven such a good round that you could overcome the alternate strategy and win both races ahead of Owen Mogyorod there?
Well, I've got one thing to say, and that is Toby Davis is a genius. It's all down to him. I really had no belief whatsoever in his strategy, but he worked out the numbers today, and he was like, oh, on paper, doing the 2-stop is 17 seconds quicker than just doing the 1-stop. And he kept going on about it, and I kept saying, nah, but who does a 2-stop in a Formula Sprint 1 race? But in the end, he convinced me. I really wasn't happy about it, but I'm definitely happy about it now.
So that means you couldn't afford to lose 17 seconds while passing other cars after your pit stop. Do you think the other cars were behaving nicely? Were you able to get through them as quickly as you expected to?
Well, this is where it is all a big gamble because you just can't foresee how it's going to play out. And I know sometimes traffic, even just people that are a lap down, are sometimes a bit silly and don't get out the way when they're fighting for nothing. But in race 2, yeah, it's at the start was very difficult because people probably didn't think we were going to stop, so they were battling very, very hard. So once you get past all those guys, you just had to put your foot down and try and clear as many cars as you can, because you got a pit and then you end up back in the pack. Luckily, I managed to go long enough to be able to slot myself quite high up in the pack, and I really had no faith in the middle of that race either. I thought I was going to come out of the pits in about 15th and had a lot of work to do, but my God, that was, yeah, I still can't believe it.
Couldn't believe it either. That was amazing. And to have the race finish in a very similar way both times, with you catching Mogyorod and then going through. Wow. Do you feel like you have a proper rivalry brewing between the two of you?
Yeah, I feel like there's been one for quite a while now, and it's going to be very close ending the season for sure.
Absolutely. You're both several points clear of anyone else right now, and still extremely close between the two of you in the championship. We're going to move on to Toby Davis now, but thank you very much for speaking to us, Tom, and what a fantastic drive that was.
Thank you very much.
No problem at all. I've just looked back at the historic results, actually. Turns out there were actually a couple of people who took 2 victories in a row in the last year, that is. Tom, of course, took 2 at France, but the last person to do it was Luke Maguire, who did it in Italy. Okie dokie. We're going to speak to Moritz in a bit, but first we're going to go to Toby Davis. Now, Toby, Tom was just saying that you're an absolute genius who came up with that strategy all by yourself. What do you think about that, and how thrilled must you be?
I'm absolutely over the moon. Everything we do in THR Nocturne is a team effort, and couldn't do it without the information, the data that both drivers gave us, and couldn't do it without having Adam Vaughan watching race view and watching the stream, keeping us updated on the gaps of the cars behind as well, making sure that the strategy was going perfectly. So thank you to Adam as well. Honestly, this team makes me very proud. Tom and Moritz both drove fantastically well tonight. Moritz has not quite had the time to put the practice in the last couple of weeks as well. So for him to turn up and get P3 in race 1, a bit unlucky in race 2, was fantastic. But what a superstar Tom Stevens is. A double race win, particularly in this season where it's so difficult to overtake, is fantastic. And I think I can feel the tide of the championships or the championship turning, and certainly I feel like this is the start of the end of season push. Certainly now that Moritz is perhaps a little bit further back, having had to miss around with COVID, means that we're fully focused on making sure that we win both championships, and I think that is achievable.
Absolutely, it is. You're a long way ahead in the teams championship now, but in terms of the drivers, it is still so close between Tom and Owen. Are you treating it any differently now in terms of the way that you speak to your drivers and the way that you go about preparing for races like this, considering that you're in a very different position to when HGP were ahead of you earlier on, and Moritz Crop was up there equal on points with Tom. Is it any different now?
The teams are still absolutely vital for us. We want to move up the ladder. So that's kind of the championship I really wanted to win at the start of the season. Where we are with Tom is fantastic, and to be honest, he's been fantastic all season. If you have a look at his results, he's regularly been a podium finisher. Perhaps hasn't had the poles that he could have done, but I'm pretty sure I'm saying he's won the most races now. So it's clear we've got 2 superstars in Nocturne, but certainly in Tom he's put the effort and the practice and the focus and the determination and the dedication, and I'm so pleased that he went with the strategies that we set up today to get those results, because I think he was the one to be able to pull it off, and he did so. And I'm so grateful to have all of the team members, Tommy Lee working on the setups, Adam Vaughan there with the data behind the scenes as well, here, and it's a full team effort, and I'm just so proud, to be honest, Caitlin, of where we are right now.
Yeah, you should be. Your team is so professional. You have people behind the scenes. You have such precise calculations that you can say, oh, 17 seconds, that's what you can afford to lose. Amazing stuff. Okay, thank you very much, Toby, and we will see you next time.
Thank you so much.
Okie dokie. Last but not least, we will move on to our third place finisher from race 1, Moritz Krupp. Moritz, how are you?
I'm very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So Moritz, third position in race 1. Race 2 may not have gone quite as well, but talk us through that first of all. Interesting strategy you and your teammate went for there.
So yeah, it was like pretty spontaneous, to be honest. Yeah, Toby just made the call this day, and we found out that the strategy is on paper a bit quicker than the normal one stop. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna try it. I've got nothing to lose, you know. I'm not in championship fight anymore, and I just want to help Tom. So I saw an opportunity there to gain a few positions, and just before the race, we tested it a bit, and we found out that it is better. So yeah, I mean, we just tried to get our nose clean and just try, I don't know, to not get stuck in traffic too much.
It's a good mindset to have. What caused the little spin you had? That could have cost you P2. I'm sorry to rub it in, but yeah, what was that about?
I know. So yeah, I was struggling in this corner in turn 5, I believe, for like the whole 2 days of practice. So I always went wide and spun on the exit curb because it's quite high and you actually bottom out and then you spin. And I don't know, I misjudged the 30 I got from Tom and went wide, went on the curb and spun. I did a nice 360. I was lucky to continue, but yeah.
Yeah, it was a good recovery, and you still finished P3, but yeah, don't do that again, okay? Anyway, race 2, a little stuck in traffic. Did that surprise you? Did you think you would have had the pace to get through?
To be honest, after starting the race, and I lost a few positions on lap 2, I was already expecting something like that, because, I don't know, it was still difficult to get past the traffic, although we were like a second quicker lap. And with some people also being on soft who were actually slower, a bit slower, we couldn't get past them as easily. And I got kind of stuck in there. Can't really describe it, but I was like stuck in the train. Couldn't get past, and I also had damage in the end on my second stint. Yeah, I just had too much understeer to do anything. I tried my best, but P8 is all I was able to do.
I guess the trouble is that at that point, even when you've lost all the time, you can't really get back through because you're committed to that strategy.
Exactly.
Anyway, thank you for speaking to us, Moritz, and congrats on your podium.
Thank you.
Okay, well, we are running out of time now, so thank you very much to everyone that we did speak to. Apologies to Josh Downard. I know he's been sitting in the interview room for a while waiting. Unfortunately, we don't have time right now. But anyway, thank you all for watching, and also thank you to Szymon Frelik for broadcasting this fantastic stream. And make sure that you tune in next week for Super Lights on Tuesday, and then Super League on Thursday. And Formula Sprint 1 will be back in 2 weeks' time from Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium. See you then.